Welcome to Olympian Water Testing, giving you the best in water analysis. Today we are looking at Oregon Coastline Alliance with chromium hazards to fish, wildlife, and invertebrates. We're taking a look at this review and most of the information. Now there's quite a lot of information here, so let's get to the main points. See, what we need to understand is what it's doing to wildlife and overall what the effect is. And here we can see that the toxicity. So biostatical properties of chromium salts to aquatic organisms are modified sometimes by an order of magnitude or more, and by a variety of biological and antibiotic factors. These include the species, age, and development stage of organisms, the temperature, pH, salinity, and alkalinity of medium, interactions of CR with other contaminants to the duration of the exposure, and the chemical form of CR tested. Also, among warm-blooded organisms, hexavalent chromium was fatal to dogs in 3 months at 100 parts per million in their food and killed most mammalian experimental animals at injected doses of 1 to 5 milligrams body weight, but had no measurable effect on chickens at dietary levels of 100 parts per million over a 32-day period. Trivalent chromium compounds were generally less toxic than hexavalent chromium compounds, but significant differences may occur in the uptake of anonic and catatonic 3+3R species. This difference may affect survival, so this is quite detrimental. Now, how does it affect aquatic organisms? Well, records of acute toxicities of hexavalent and trivalent chromium salts, to represent species of aquatic life, make it clear that Cr+6, and that's chromium 6, chromium 3 with the pluses, is more toxic to freshwater biota in comparatively soft and acidic waters. Then the younger life stages are more sensitive than older organisms, and that 96H is insufficient to attain stable mortality patterns. And there are at least 5 ionic species of hexavalent CR, of which 2, hydrochrome ion and chromate ion, are predominant species, and probably the agents that are toxic to freshwater life. However, water pH dramatically affects the concentration of each, as pH decreased from 7.8 to 6.5, hydrochromate ion increased by a factor of about 3, and the chromate ion decreased from a factor of about 6.8. More research is needed to fully elucidate chromium's mode of action. The organism's sensitivity to Cr6, as judged by 96H, LC50 values were freshwater crustaceans, rotifers, and marine crustaceans, for which LC50 values were 445 to 3100 parts per billion. Longer exposures to 28 to 84 days produced LC50 values of 200 to 500 parts per billion, and other investigators had confirmed Cr6 is more toxic to freshwater dampeners, testos in water of comparatively low alkalinity, low pH, and low total hardness. In marine telestos, the toxicity of Cr6 increased at elevated temperatures. Furthermore, Cr was additive in toxicity when present as a component in a complex mixture of cadmium, zinc, and Cr6 salts. So these compounds, these minerals, can make it worse. For trivalent chromium, the freshwater biota toxicity was significantly increased in comparative soft waters. This pattern was especially pronounced for daphnids. Among freshwater testos, survival was reduced at comparatively low pH. Also, organisms exposed at Cr3 salts were not unusually sensitive or resistant to additional Cr3, suggesting that they were unable to acrylamize or become sensitized Cr3, Stevens, and Chapman, as judged by 96 LC values. And toxicity of Cr3, like that of Cr6, was increasing exposure in rainbow trout. However, 3R6 was significantly less toxic than Cr6 in freshwater salmon fingerlings, and dramatically less toxic to Cr6 in polychaetes and crustaceans, but not to mollusks or testos in saltwater. And we can see the data here for aquatic life. But what this really comes down to, and all of this testing they also have for mammals and birds here, is that there's different types of chromium, and those different types of chromium mixed with different types of minerals are going to affect aquatic life in different ways. So to keep aquatic life safe, we need to understand what type of chromium it is, and the pH of the water, alkalinity, and a lot of other factors, and that can be done through testing. As we can see with mammals and birds, acute and chronic adverse effects of chromium to warm-blooded organisms caused mainly by CR6 compounds, there's little conclusive evidence of toxic effects by CR2 or 3 compounds, and most investigators agree that chromium in biological materials is probably always in trivalent state. The greatest exposures of 3 in human population are through diet, but no adverse effects have been reported from exposures. Studies with guinea pigs for CR3 at 21 weeks concentrations up to 500 parts per million dietary C3 show no adverse effects. So, breaking this down quite simply, this is going to have different effects on different animals. CR6 with dogs showed that 100 parts per million for food was fatal, so it can be dangerous to dogs. It can be dangerous to some aquatic life, but with certain other animals, it's not going to be as harmful. That being said, to protect animals and to protect humans and to protect aquatic life, it's always a good idea to test for what type of chromium it is, pH, alkalinity, and all the different factors so we can keep ecosystems safe.